Adam 12.
Adam 12.
Cop Talk America's on the air.
Copy. Put me 10-6. I'm tuning into Cop Talk America.
Welcome to Cop Talk America, where police discuss the job, answer questions, and respond to law enforcement hot topics around our great nation. With over 100 years combined law enforcement experience, here's your host.
Welcome to Cop Talk America YouTube, where we're going to watch some videos and then we're going to critique them and give our opinions. Right, wrong, or indifferent, you're going to hear our opinions. That's why you're tuning in. This first one's going to take us out to Kansas, where an officer got into a fight over a seatbelt ticket, which was completely ridiculous, but the way the suspect was acting. The backup officer showed up to assist, and evidently she thought she had her taser out. It wasn't her taser, it was her firearm, and she shot this guy one time. Needless to say, it did end the fight. It did a hell of a lot better job than the taser would have done, but she ended up getting charged with aggravated battery. She was exonerated. She did end up resigning from the police department. So we're going to show you the video, and just keep in mind, this is the kind of crap that officers have to put up with every day. It's a simple little seatbelt ticket. And this guy, the suspect, takes it. He's the one that got himself in the jam, not the officer. If you want the officers to enforce the law, then they're going to enforce the law, and that's what happened here.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Officer McCann, Lawrence Police Department. The reason I stopped you, not wearing your seatbelt, okay?
Man.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Stop.
What? Man, all the fucking
Stop.
mad about seatbelt, bro. I'm moving, my family homeless. I'm trying to go to fucking work at 6. You gonna stop me for a fucking seatbelt?
Yes, sir.
Man. Get Sergeant Folks on the phone now.
Do you have your driver's license?
Get Folks on the phone now.
We don't have a Sergeant Folks.
Oh, yes, you do.
Are you saying Kirk Folks or
Yes, you do.
Folks?
Yes, you do.
Okay, sir, this is a seatbelt violation.
Man, go get something, man. I'm finna go to Trail Ridge. You pull me over there, man.
Okay, I'm going to pull you over right here. This is going to literally take only 4 minutes.
No, it's not. Cause I ain't, man. You, all them folks you just paid about, you gonna stop me for a fucking seatbelt?
Yes, sir, that's why I'm here today. I'm
Bruh,
here.
I gotta go get my motherfucking backseat and get my motherfucking kids. You know, all them motherfucking folks, bruh.
In the time you...
Man, go get your motherfucking supervisor.
In the time you have...
Go get your goddamn supervisor. Don't
No,
talk
sir.
to me.
I'm not going to do that.
Well then, hey, bruh, you can go on with that rich
Okay.
shit, man.
Here's the deal.
Bye.
Listen, here's the deal.
What?
This is a simple traffic violation. It's a
Man,
seatbelt
you
ticket.
trying to stop me for a motherfucking seatbelt violation?
Yes, sir, 'cause
After
you're not
you
wearing
pass
it.
all them goddamn, man.
They had their seatbelt on,
Like I
sir.
said, go get your people, man.
Okay, I'm not going to go get anybody.
Well, then
We're going to take care of our business. I'm going to get you on down the road. If you would like to make a complaint after that, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, but I'm not going to stand out here and have court with you and have an argument with you on the side of the road. I need your driver's license and your insurance card. If you give me that, I will get you your citation. I will get you on your way. You'll be out of here in 5 minutes or less. And you can go pick up your kids, and you can go move your family, and you can go do the things that you need to do.
You
but the longer
ran around and popped on me.
Yes,
Man, you gonna
sir. Because you didn't have your seatbelt on.
Nah, all them white folks you passed by didn't have their motherfucking seatbelts on.
Yes, they did, sir.
Get the fuck out my face, man. I'm telling you, bye. I'm already hot. I'm pissed off. Been a long bad day.
I don't want to make the situation any worse than it has to be.
You doing that right now.
No, sir, you are.
Yes, you are.
You're making this a much bigger issue than it needs to be.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
You
sir.
made it a motherfucking issue. You passed all the motherfucking folk, they ain't gonna whip around right there beside me, man. You seen all the motherfucker in front of me didn't even have his seatbelt on.
I did not see that.
You
I
a
saw
goddamn lie. If you standing right there driving by, you did see that motherfucker,
Okay.
man. Don't fuck with me.
You're more than welcome to complain about that later, but that's not going to get you out of this ticket today. And if you keep arguing and we keep going down this road, you're going to go to jail for a seatbelt violation. You want to go to jail for a seatbelt violation? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I've been before. For a fucking seatbelt violation.
So you want to go to jail for a seatbelt
like
violation?
I said, get your motherfucking soul.
Okay, we'll go to jail then.
Go get your supervisor.
Except that you a second. No, I'm not going to get my
Get your
supervisor.
motherfucking supervisor been requested. It's my right to
not
stop
your right.
your motherfucking
It's not a
supervisor
right.
because I didn't ask for one.
It's not a right.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Trust
Not.
me. Yes,
No,
it
it's
is.
not.
Okay.
This is the silliest thing I've ever had to do.
It really is. It really fucking is, man.
I really want you to go through the rest of your day and be able to enjoy it.
You fuck that up, man.
Okay?
Come on,
Instead of having to go to jail.
Go to work. Shit.
You're not going to make it to work. You're going to go to jail.
Well, shit.
You're going to lose your job. Is really all this worth it? It's a ticket for
Like
a
I
seatbelt.
said, I have a right to talk to your supervisor.
No, you don't.
Supervisor up out here.
You
Don't
don't
tell me
have
what.
that right. That's not a right.
You don't want to tell me that.
That's not a right.
You don't want to tell me that.
That's a request you've made, and that's not going to happen right now.
How come?
Why?
Yeah, why not?
Because we're not going to sit here and block traffic while I wait for a supervisor to drive here and talk to you and tell you the same thing. They're going to tell you the exact same thing that I have just told you. That's you're getting a seatbelt ticket.
Man, hell.
You're about to go to jail for a seatbelt violation. Are you really wanting to do that? You could give me your driver's license, I could write you your ticket, and you could drive home.
I haven't done nothing.
You're not wearing your
seatbelt. You
seatbelt.
just stopped the motherfuckers in front of me for a fucking seatbelt.
I don't care about them right now. I care about you. I can't stop every car on the road.
Let me tell you something. You didn't stop them for a fucking seatbelt, but you're gonna turn around behind me and try to pop me for a fucking seatbelt?
Sir, I can only stop one
all the
car at a
motherfuckers
time.
you were looking at coming down the motherfucking line right there,
I was
man.
not.
Get on with that shit.
Okay.
You fucking my day up. That's what you're doing.
He's going to jail.
How you doing?
Okay.
No, I'm not.
You are.
Don't touch my vehicle. Not have a right to my motherfucking
I
vehicle.
need you to step out. Step out. Give me your hands. Step out. Hey, don't make this. Don't make
I
this.
told you, don't talk to me. I want to talk to your motherfucker.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
I'm gonna knock you in your motherfucker.
Get out of the car.
I'm not getting out this car.
Get out of the car.
I'm not.
Get out of the
Please
car.
stop, man.
Sir?
You're messing up my kid's stuff. Please.
672 starts more units.
No. No. Listen. You came up here and you ain't even listening. This man done rode by every motherfucking body without a seatbelt. And then gonna just pull up behind me.
I need you to step out of the
No,
car.
I'm not. He wanted to do this shit. I asked him for a supervisor out here. He telling me I don't have a right to do that.
You don't?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're gonna see after all these motherfucking people. You let all these motherfuckers. Oh shit! Oh
Anybody else in the car? No. Check the car. Nobody's in the car.
We're cuffed. We're cuffed. We need to get patted down for weapons. Hey, we got medics. We got medics coming for you. We have medics coming for you.
Well, 100% justified in tasing this guy. I can't really say I would have shot him at this point, but since that was accidental and not intentional, we're going to have to excuse that, and evidently the courts have too, although she did get put through a lot of crap beforehand, ended up resigning from her job. I thought, once again, the thing we really need to look at here, this is a simple seatbelt ticket. If you don't like it, then take it to court. But this guy decides to be a jerk and claim racism and all of this to the point that the officer has two choices. He can either leave or he can arrest him. That's his only choices. He has no other option. So if society wants police officers to enforce the law, in this case, he's going to have to arrest him. He goes to arrest him, and as you can tell, this guy is putting up one hell of a fight. The officer gets body slammed. He gets punched. And, you know, it was a free-for-all. And this officer would have been 100% justified in using force if he had a nightstick. You know, this dude in the car, for lack of a better term, he was in definitely putting himself in a position for an ass-kicking. And that's on him. And that's unfortunately what a lot of these guys have to put up with. And that's what makes you think, am I going to really stop this car? It's a seatbelt violation. I don't get paid for how many tickets I write. I could pull over here in this parking lot and let this guy go by, and none of this would ever happen. And that's exactly what's going on in this country today, is more and more officers are not enforcing the law. They're not making these traffic stops. They're not doing this stuff because of the fear that something stupid like this could happen. You get some jerk off like this that wants to fight you and you defend yourself, you use force, you end up hitting him with your nightstick or tasing him. Like I said, this was a unique situation because he got a gun and a taser mixed up. And you end up on the wrong end of the stick because now you're a racist, and now you're being looked at, and you're being scrutinized, and nobody seems to have your back. And that's why these guys are just sitting in parking lots. And I can't say that I have not done that myself in the last few years, and you can't blame them for it.
It's definitely a training issue. As a former taser instructor, that's always been one of the biggest concerns, and we really stressed, making sure you have the right weapon, and everybody knows the stress levels in the heat of battle, and the stress is put on these officers, and that mistakes do happen, and this is exactly what happened, is a mistake. But I'm not in her shoes, and I don't know what decision-making she was doing at the time. We're going to have a debate or whether or not it was justified to use deadly force in this situation or not. It was pretty darn close as far as I'm concerned is about the possibility of using deadly force. You have an officer in an entanglement with this guy. They're out in the roadway. The way I looked at it, I didn't know what he had a hold of when they're tussling around in a circle like that. Did he have the officer's gun at that point in time? I don't know, but this second officer that came in here, I think she thought it was more of probably a deadly force situation and chose the right weapon, but turned around and said, no, I made a mistake and used was trying to get my taser, which...
I agree that you could say it was justified for deadly force. I think at that point, though, and it goes back to training, if your department trains to use a baton, trains to use an asp, if you got a taser and you grab it instead of your gun, I'd went to one of those weapons beforehand. And like I said, this guy was in for an ass whooping. I mean, there's just no way around it. I'm not going to have him slamming my head in the concrete and kicking my ass and getting in and driving off because he's having a bad day and he's pissed off. No, he's going to lose this battle, and that's how it should be. And that's how it, unfortunately, isn't always in this day and age.
Well, Dave, you got to look at it. I mean, you got to take into consideration she was a recruit, not a recruit officer, but she was just out on her own. And like many departments, you don't know how much training they give you. They can't train you in real life situations because we tried that, and you got officers hurt. And then the department says, "Oh no more of that type of training." But back to the situation. Yeah, as she said, she tried to get her taser. But you got to look, now her stress level is up to 200% because she's there as a backup, probably her second day on the streets by herself. And now a fight. Oh, my God. She probably did mean to grab her taser because that's what she was trained. She was taught for 20 minutes in a situation like this, use your taser. And that's what she probably thought she grabbed. And then when that pow, it brought her back to realization that, oops, that wasn't a taser. She was waiting to hear a kick, kick, but no, it didn't happen. So, criminal, no. Did she do it intentionally? Nah. It's just stress.
And
we all have been there.
And look what she got put through, charged with a serious felony. It's just not right.
Well, and the mere fact that this suspect, when he comes out of the car, is able to basically give a hip throw on this guy, on the male officer, placing him on the ground, pretty rough. And this is politically incorrect to say in these days and age, but here's this smaller statured female officer comes around, and she's seeing this, and she knows in her own mind, I can't take that on. I'm not physically able to do it. Those are just facts. And the courts have said, you have to fight within what your means are. And the problem is, we like to tell everybody, well, everybody's equal and everybody's the same, and everybody, no, you're not. Okay? If this guy wants to issue out an ass whooping and he throws the male officer down, turns around, looks at her, and starts closing on her, as Jerry said, during this fight, people will say, well, he wasn't armed. There's two guns there.
Right, absolutely.
Both those officers are armed. Officers have many times been disarmed and shot with their own weapon, and you're trained that way. Why does she draw her sidearm versus her taser? How many times do we repetitively practice drawing our firearm? How many times do we repetitively practice drawing our taser? It's a 10-to-1 minimum difference. So under stress, we do what we are normally doing. So she goes to the wrong weapon. And again, this, as Jerry said, this is a training issue. And if she just was to practice that movement more often, but while you're doing that, you have to learn how to be politically correct with when you're handling domestic disputes. And, you know, we spend these people to all this training on the things that don't get us sued. And then we have something like this happen where the officer does something like this. And I guarantee you, she was trying to do the right thing, and instead it came out the wrong way. And the department should look at that and say, where did we fail? How do we make this better? How do we make it where our officer will know this is what I draw? From our own experiences, we know of an officer who had a live handgun in one hand and a taser in her other. And I'm like, that is a definite disaster waiting to happen. Okay. And when brought in to talk about it with the administration, their comment was, we're going to give these officers commendations. I said, you mean suspensions? They said, commendations. And I'm like, no, they're doing this wrong, not right. Okay. We need to be able to do real training, and we need to be able to do things in order to get it through to them. We're not trying to pick on you, but we're trying to save you. I know in setting up training before, the man sitting at the end of the table had his ribs broken while role-playing as a bad guy. And the other man on the other side of the table, well, they couldn't break his ribs, but he was attempting to hurt as many officers as he could while he was putting them through training. We don't do those things anymore because you're going to have somebody hurt, and they're going to go to the doctor, and that's part of the job. That really is. And we need to go back to, can you fight? You're a peace officer. You must be able to keep the peace.
And it's very hard to raise the level of stress in a lot of these events in training scenarios.
Yep.
It's one of the, we've come a long way in my career with my department, you know, trying to get to that level of stress to put these officers as much stress as possible. Just think about all these other departments across the United States that don't have the funding, don't have the training scenarios and the ability to train to that type of level. Like I said, it's very difficult when we basically had, you know, everything we asked for with our department. So it's a hard thing to create that type of stress level in that scenario to that level. The positive thing out of this is that you had 2 officers go home that night, because I don't think this was going to end up very well for those officers. Like I said, the officer made a mistake, and I don't know if it was necessarily that bad of a mistake, because I think she did the right thing and stopped the threat that was being inflicting on the officer. There's a comment in this article that related to this from the suspect's attorney, and Miss Lewis, or Lewis's attorney, Miss Downing, said in a statement, during the officer's attempt to arrest Lewis for a seatbelt violation, in quotes, the officer initiated physical contact and escalated the situation that could have been easily de-escalated by a number of interventions.
I'd like to know what those were.
Yeah. We had this discussion earlier in our side tables. After the incident, there are serious concerns about training officers and receive an ongoing certification required to ensure that all officers is faced with the situation where force is used, that they use the level of force reasonably necessary for the given circumstances. Well, I'd like to get some follow-up from Ms. Downing on what else could the officer have done to de-escalate that situation?
Stayed
the
in the
original
parking lot.
officer.
Stayed in the parking
original
lot.
officer. He went through so much crap. And this is a common thing, folks, listening to us and seeing this. This happens hundreds of times a day across this country with officers just out there trying to do their job, protect public safety, and protect citizens. I mean, seatbelts do save lives. We just had a discussion at the beginning of the show where we honored officers that have fallen and died in the line of duty. 2 of those were Illinois State Troopers that were hit by motor vehicles while doing car stops, and we have a Scott law here. And there's not too much teeth in that Scott law as far as fine. I think it's a $75 fine, unless you hit and injure somebody, and then it goes up. But we enforce those laws to protect lives and protect officers' lives. So these what people think are just minor events to get escalated into serious events, there's a reason we have to protect people from themselves and enforce these laws to save lives. So the officers were doing their job, and he did everything he could possibly do to de-escalate that situation. And I brought it up. I said, I wish we could go into these liberal group meetings and these different type of conventions and organizations that people badmouth the police and want to talk about all the police issues out there, and that we need more training and de-escalation. I would like to show these videos and say exactly what do we do, what point do we have to put an end to this? You know, that's the question I'd like to hear from people that say we need to de-escalate more often. So,
well, and that comes with the assumption of the officer's doing his job, and it would be he doesn't have the option to decide this isn't worth it. I'm just going to go back to my car and we'll just start over. It's just a seatbelt ticket. Just let him go. Okay, well, it's just a speeding ticket. Let him go. He just stole stuff, but he doesn't want to come with you. Let him go.
Armed robbery.
He just did an armed robbery. Let him. I mean, where do you draw these lines? And when the people sit here and say these things, all we do is enforce the laws. The responsibility of this solely sits with the gentleman sitting inside the car, running his mouth, and making all these claims and accusations, and I want, instead of, here's the driver's license, here's my insurance card, I'll go down to the station, talk to the supervisor, I'll go to court and fight the ticket. If you really think you've been wronged, do those things, but don't have an argument out in the middle of the street.
and I think that's what the law is, isn't it?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you have your right to go to court. Go to court.
Yep.
We're not going to have court in the middle of a busy highway.
And if you want to talk to the supervisor,
exactly.
go to
I
the
think
station.
that officer should been the first officer should receive an accommodation, because I know in my 30 years that he talked to that gentleman way too long. He asked too many times for his driver's license, insurance card. Just on my personal opinion, and from me, I wouldn't have done it that many times.
But that's how much things have changed. That's now the norm.
And then you have the guy attacking the officer, and before it's all said and done, like you said, the officers both went home at the end of the night, but unfortunately one of them ended up going to jail, and that's just wrong. Just wrong.
You go to the hospital first.
No, not the bad guy, the officer.
And that's a totally,
one officer ended up getting arrested.
And that's a totally different topic we can talk about all day long. Is that comes into body cameras. Here you have a body camera that caught all this bad behavior by the suspect, not by the police. And it's exactly why body cameras were brought into place, because it keeps the officer accountable. I think that officer was playing to his body camera because he knew it was running, and he did everything he needed to do to make sure he was 100% right. And it was shown on there. So now you have bad behavior caught on body camera, and we're going to spin this a different direction, thinking this guy's an innocent person. It was just wrongly stopped, and he did nothing to deserve to be shot, which he threw an officer in the middle of a busy highway, wrestling around with him. Like I said, I couldn't tell for sure
Punched
he
at him.
didn't have his gun, at one point in time. But you throw him down in a busy highway, that there is pretty close to getting someone killed. So I think I agree with Jarvis. I think maybe this officer should have been given an accommodation more than fired for it, but or charged, most definitely. But like I said, mistakes happen during the heat of battle, and we just got to take a better look at this and decide, is it a training issue, or do you have an officer here that's a bad officer and he's not trainable, and look at the whole circumstances before we start running people to prison over making a mistake trying to do the right thing.